Wisconsin has already set a new record for in-person early voting. What is your early read on those numbers? How is it breaking down?
Yeah, big numbers statewide. I was the first Republican state chair in the country to endorse early vote. And I would just tell Republicans, look, you can't keep going into Election Day 100,000 votes down and expect to make it up in 13 hours. It's just common sense. And so we've been, leading the way on early vote here in Wisconsin. We're seeing the fruits of that now. You have early voting numbers in record numbers, actually, statewide. I've been traveling the state quite a bit, obviously, and we're seeing record numbers there, and we're seeing, not quite as much momentum on the Harris side in places like Milwaukee, where I am now. I'll be with President Trump at the rally tonight. I spoke at his rally in Green Bay the other night. So, Wisconsin and Michigan, it's a little bit different because we don't have party registration in either of those states. So it's a little bit harder to track early vote as it would be in some other states. But I will tell you, the trends we're seeing are pretty positive.
Your counterpart, Democratic Party Chair Ben Wickler, would disagree with some of the things, obviously, that you just had to say. They've got the edge in energy, he says. He says they have been dominating the ground game. They certainly have had the money, right, to open offices, to run the ground game, to flood the airwaves. We're going into the final weekend. Talk about how many people you have going out there, getting out the vote, and how you compare the importance of that to the visits you're getting from the candidates on your side.
Well, my friendly adversary, Ben, said that 2 years ago, and they proceeded to drop over $100 million trying to beat Ron Johnson and lost, and also lost legislative seats and courthouse seats all over the state. So while I appreciate his rhetoric on it, truth is I have over 40 offices around the state. We have thousands of volunteers in the next several days, pounding on doors and making phone calls and doing what it takes to win. But Wisconsin, we've had 12 races in 24 years in this state Wisconsin's about 6 million people. We've had 12 races in 24 years that have been decided by 30,000 votes or less.
So what keeps you up at night? Given that fact,
at this point, everything keeps me up at night at this point. But no, the truth is, Wisconsin's, being honest about it here, Wisconsin's going to be a nail biter down at the end. It's turnout, of course, but I will tell you, as I travel across the state, Milwaukee, as I say today, we're going to have tens of thousands of people to welcome President Trump tonight. I emphasized early vote early on, frankly, as a resource issue. And so for me, it's about turnout. I don't, when I see polls go up and down, and I watch our internal polling pretty closely, we're in pretty good, and we feel like we're in a good position there. But really, it's turnout at this point, and also it's new voters. It's people have not, maybe voted before. They're low propensity voters. There's a couple 100,000 of them out around this state. I get to even a small percentage of those people, and President Trump wins Wisconsin. But the polling doesn't really change what we're doing in terms of base turnout and all of that. That really doesn't change what we're doing. We're still identifying voters, calling, stopping at their door. And we have a terrific statewide organization. We have a lot of third-party groups that have spent a lot of time in Wisconsin. So it's for all the confidence on the other side of the aisle, it's tied in Wisconsin. So it's not going that well for them. And the truth. Well, and the truth is, too, to your point earlier, the whole point of picking Governor Walz from Minnesota, with all possible respect to the governor, was to extend this blue wall. Well, right now, and as you showed in your schedule of campaign stops, the Democrats have the blue wall blues because just in the last 24 hours, most of these stops for Kamala Harris have been set up in Wisconsin. And so she had, and I'll be the first one to say it, they say kind of a Harris honeymoon in the polling post-Democrat convention. And now it's Harris hysteria.
Brian, let me ask you a question about the voters beyond what is a pretty rock-solid base of support for Donald Trump across the country. I'm wondering, when he talks about Liz Cheney, like this last night, I wonder who he is getting to go out and vote for him. Let me play the Liz Cheney bite.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Who hears that and wants to go vote for Donald Trump that isn't already a part of your base?
Yeah, look, regardless of the president's comments about Kamala Harris, or I'm sorry, about Liz Cheney, look, regardless of that, when they brought Liz Cheney in multiple times into Wisconsin, I didn't spend any time staying up at night wondering whether that was going to help them or not. You know, the focus for the Trump campaign now.
Well, the campaign is worried
Kamala
about
Harris
this comment because they put out multiple statements trying to mitigate it, trying to calm it down. So are you staying up at night worried about these sorts of comments from your candidate?
No, I'm not. The Democrats are spending their time staying up at night worrying about their 4-year incumbent president, who they pushed off the ticket, calling Trump supporters garbage. That is the much bigger issue right now. And I will tell you, in the last couple of days since that happened, as I move around the state, I hear that everywhere.
But, sir, what about the possibility that what the former president said could inspire someone to violence?
You know what? With all due respect, Andrea, we always hear that. Donald Trump's the one getting shot at these days multiple times. So I think we know the context of what Donald Trump was saying there, and saying, look, you know, he's the one who's you know, put up with people shooting at him, not her. So I don't think Liz Cheney has a particular effect on this election. But again, as a blue wall state, which Wisconsin has traditionally been, the fact that Kamala Harris has to practically live here to try to win it after they were several points ahead before shows me the trouble that they're in right now. Look, the truth of this whole thing is, if people associate Kamala Harris with the last 4 years of the Biden administration, they're not going to win this election. And that's just a plain fact. There isn't a poll out there that says otherwise. So she has to run away from Joe Biden and her record the last 4 years. If she's associated with that record, Kamala Harris does not win, which is why when she goes out and does interviews and have rallies, she's talking about the future starting now, like she was never vice president of the United States. So whether it's in Wisconsin or our on-air colleague here, my colleague from Michigan, whether it's in either of those states, they're both very close states. And it makes me wonder what Tim Walz brought to the ticket. He was supposed to be the Midwestern governor that was going to strengthen them in Midwestern states, and it has not happened. In fact, they're on the verge of losing both of them.
Brian Schimming, thank you so much for coming on the program.